You know that song, Love Lifted Me, says, I was sinking deep in sin, far from the peaceful shore, but the Lord lifted me out of that. But not only does grace and his free gift include lifting me out of sin, it includes lifting me up, high on a pedestal. And this is a song done by Anne Murray. It was secular when it came out. But for me, it's my testimony of what the Lord has done for
Since the 2016 presidential campaign, I learned some new words. And there's a lot of new words. We'll look at 3. But in the introduction, I'm going to give you 2. And I'll talk about the latest one, which is up on the screen. Xenophobia and misogyny. Now, Blaine has a fairly good vocabulary, or he likes to think he does. But I just did not, when I heard those words back in 2016, I just really didn't click with it. And I'm going to tell you my first thought of what it might mean. I associated, believe it or not, my initial thoughts, xenophobia, and I'm sure the rest of you know exactly what it means. I'll tell you here in a minute what it does mean, is being afraid of, I know phobia is a fear of something, or not liking xylophones. You know what a xylophone is? something to do. Someone that doesn't like massages, or is afraid to get one. They might like it, but they're afraid to do it. Now I'm embellishing this just a little bit, but those, I really didn't know what they mean, and that was sort of the first thing that come to mind. It's generally go with something that you know what, that sounds familiar. Now, xenophobia is the fear or dislike of foreigners. Let me say this. I am not xenophobic. I am not afraid, or do I dislike foreigners. It's number one, it's not Christian. It is not Christian. This is going to border political, so but people are welcome to come to this country legally. Legally. I'll stop at that. On that. But it's not Christian to fear, just like I went all over the world in the Navy. Saw a lot of foreign people. Misogyny. The dislike of women. Or another word we might be familiar with, French word, I think, chauvinism, chauvinistic. Chauvin was a Frenchman, if I'm not mistaken. Now let me say this. Say this the right way. Some people would say it too enthusiastically, but I certainly like women. I do not dislike, I do not fear women. I like women. And I'm saying this with my wife of 44 years sitting in the fellowship hall. I have a daughter, so I like women. Now, I've watched Leave It to Beaver, grew up on Leave It to Beaver. And what did Beaver always say? Well, girls are creepy. That was his, if you watch some of the Leave It to Beaver, I never thought girls were creepy. The coin that used another word for back then, I thought girls were neat. I grew up, had a sister. I must admit I played house with my sister and her friend. So I'm not misogynistic, and I believe in gender equality. I strongly support gender equality. Your race, gender, creed, or all that should not determine how much a person makes. And I do agree that women are facing, and many times in our society and corporate culture, that glass ceiling. Now, I do admit that happens. That needs to change, and I think it generally is. It is happening. Now, one side used those words frequently in reference to the eventual winner of the election. Some even used those words as a put down to those that voted for the winner. And I'm shifting, hopefully, away from the political aspect of this. Recently, another word has become prominent. Quid pro quo. How many times have you heard quid pro quo in the last 3 months or so? A lot? Am I alone? A lot? It's Latin. I sort of like saying, Angela knows and my children know this, if a word sounds sort of catchy, I say it a lot. It slides off your tongue very easily. Quid pro quo. Quid pro quo. I like saying it. I've been going around the house saying, in fact, I used it, Angela and I were talking about a situation this morning that she didn't know what I was going to preach on. And she was telling me to describe a situation, and I said, there's a quid pro quo in that. Because it's fresh on my mind. Quid pro quo. You do this for me, and I'll do that for you. You scratch my back, and I'll scratch yours. Figuratively. Now, I ain't going to get mad, but scratch my back. the other couples do that? My back's itching, you scratch your back. You know, we do that periodically. So, in my opinion, there was no quid pro quo in that situation that was in the news. But it got me to thinking. Now I'm shifting here for sure. It got me to thinking. It got me to thinking biblically and theologically. I told you, I don't know if you remember me saying something, there might be a message in this quid pro quo, because it got me to thinking, hopefully, that you do when situations come up, whether it's words, topics, and all that, you know, what does the Bible say about this? And it's amazing what the Bible says about stuff like that we see in the news. Politics does involve a lot of quid pro quo. But Christianity does not. In fact, Christianity is the antithesis to quid pro quo. There is no quid pro quo in our relationship with Jesus Christ. There is no quid pro quo because of grace. When I put this message together and I got to this point, I said, well, why isn't there any quid pro quo? They said, does grace? Grace is the reason there's no quid pro quo in our relationship with Christ. And again, grace is the opposite of quid pro quo. Nothing is required. You don't have to do a dead-gum thing. Nothing is required of you. It's free. There is no quid pro quo. You don't have to do anything. Ephesians chapter 2, verses 8 and 9. By grace you have been saved through faith. Not of yourselves. It's a gift from God. Not as a result of works. Works is quid pro quo, isn't it? Think about it. Theologically, works is quid pro quo. If I do enough good things for God, He's going to save me. This ain't the way it is. It's not the way it is. Neither one. It's not the result of work so that someone may boast. Grace, and I preached on this, and hopefully you know this, but it might be the first time you heard it, might be that you haven't heard it in a long time. Grace is you receiving favorable treatment that you do not deserve. Favorable treatment that you don't deserve. And what is that favorable treatment? The forgiveness of sin. That's that favorable treatment. We don't deserve forgiveness of sins, but we do through Christ. There is no quid pro quo. Grace is free. Grace is a gift. You don't have to do anything. You know, even though we don't deserve it, God sent someone to save us from the consequence of sin. This is my shift to the Christmas season. At some point in this, I have to shift to the Christmas theme. John chapter 1, verse 14. The Word became flesh and dwelt among us. And we saw His glory. Glory as of the only begotten from the Father, full of what? Grace and truth. The second person of the Trinity becomes in the form of that baby in Bethlehem. Oh, little town, I guess that had to be on your mind when you picked the little town of Bethlehem. Perfect, but God becomes a human being in the form of a baby. Let's not forget that. That's the essence of Christmas. Jesus Christ, if you don't know, is the Word. When John talks here 2 or 3 places, 2 or 3 verses there in the first chapter, Jesus Christ is the Word. He's the living Word. There's the written Word, which is God speaking to us, and there's the living Word, which is Jesus Christ. The Word became flesh and lived among us and became like one of us, starting out as those little babies that you see and hear, and grew up to be that age, and grew up to be our age, or 33. Alan's age. That's what Christmas is all about. Nothing more, nothing less. Yeah, the gifts are good, and the grandkids getting gifts, and my goodness, I remember getting, could not wait to get the good old Sears and Roebuck Christmas catalog. And where did they put the toys? Anybody remember where they put the toy section? No, in the back. It's always in the back. So what's the first thing? I don't know when we got it. Probably about the 1st of October. I don't know. Where did he go? I went to the back. Thumbed through all the girls' doll stuff. You know all the girls. I thumbed through all that stuff. And to get to the... yes. My sister and I could get $30 worth. That probably a lot back in the 60s. Angela's, there's 4 of them, she said they could only get $20 worth. And bought a lot of stuff at $30, $20, $30, buy a lot of stuff back then. You know, I was blessed growing up, and so I realized that. But I couldn't wait to get that Sears catalog, just to start looking at that. Now you know what I look for? You know what excites me when I get the mail? A Bass Pro Shop sales thing. And I got the Bass Pro Shop version of the Christmas catalog the other day. And I flipped through it, you know, and I didn't really see anything that I needed. I see a lot of stuff that I want. But Chris, my point is, those things are fine. Gifts, getting together, and all that stuff, that's part of Christmas. But it's ultimately the Word becoming flesh in the person of Jesus Christ. That's the focus of Christmas. You know, as we begin the season of Christ, much of the world will turn their eyes to Him. Whether it's a picture, a statue, or whatever, crucifix, whatever the case, they will start to turn their eyes to Him. Sadly, most people will just give Him a passing glance. Oh yeah, or that's that guy that might have lived and might have did some miracles and might have been born of a virgin and might have, you know, but I'm a good person. I'm going to heaven anyway, so I ain't got to worry about it. But it is the time of year. I think I'll do a little bit more to help somebody in need. That'll keep me in good with God. People think that way. Or I'll throw some money in the Salvation Army bucket that I see when I go in Bass Pro Shop. Which I did. I do. I like these people that do God's work. But most will just give Him a passing glance. Oh yeah, there's a Jesus guy. But some may take a closer look and know, I've heard this Jesus guy all my life. And I've heard many crazy preachers just on and get red-faced about preaching about Jesus, about talking about Jesus. You know, my goodness, if I get red-faced and get excited about talking about Jesus, praise be to God. Somebody just might take it close to me. I need hope. I need peace in my life. I want some joy. I want somebody to love me. Or maybe I need to be more loving. Maybe this Jesus guy that it's all about is real. Let me give him a try. Revelation 22:17. Some of the last words of the Bible. Words of Christ. The Spirit and the bride say, come. Let the one who hears come. Let the one who is thirsty come. Let the one who wishes to take the water of life without cost, and I'm going to add to it, come. 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 The Spirit, the bride. You know who the bride? The bride's the church. Them old crazy people, them hypocritical people that only talk about money. That's the church that a lot of the outside world thinks about. They forget about the love, hope, peace, joy, and all that good stuff. The church says, come. The Spirit of God says, come. Christ says, come. And drink the water of life. That is only found in Christ. Now, we pay for this water. I got it out of the jug back there. The church pays for it. I guess you always pay for the water. Pay the water company. Pay the water bill. But there's that water, the river of life that the last couple of chapters of Revelation talk about. The tree of life.